Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here, and I'm sure all of you returning viewers already know, but I'm a simple man. I mean, I know it because my wife tells me every single day, but it's true. I am a very, very simple man. When I read a new number one, all I need is to see that the writer gets the character, has an interesting story to tell, and by the end, makes me want to continue reading the series. That's it. Easy peasy. Now, it helps when the character is kick-ass like Blade, but hey, I have seen writers mess up so much stuff lately that I am not taking anything for granted. So, does Blade number one give fans something to sink their teeth into, or does it suck? And yes, those are vampire jokes. Let's get into this.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Blade number one is written by Bryan Hill with art by Elena Casagrande. And I'll tell you right away, I like Bryan Hill. I like Elena Casagrande. I like Blade, and surprise, surprise, I like this book. I'm pretty sure that most people know the basics when it comes to Blade. You know, he's the daywalker. He is half vampire, and that's all you really need to know. Don't worry if you haven't been reading his recent comic book stuff like being the sheriff of Vampire Nation. Push that stuff aside. That nonsense is not needed here. This is a number one that's very easy to jump into for new and old readers alike. Plus, Bryan Hill nails Blade's voice, and Elena Casagrande makes it all look great. Now, my biggest problem by the end is that it ended so quickly, and I wanted more. So really not much of a problem at all. Bryan Hill shows his cinematic roots with a very cinematic feeling first issue. Things kick off as Blade saves a girl in distress from vampires into club. Yeah, it's right on point and pretty damn cool. The scene ends with an ominous threat before we go back to see how all this was set up. We find out that the girl is something special, though the details are very vague. But hey, Blade isn't a guy big on details, so what could possibly go wrong? By the end, we find out that a ton of things can and do go wrong, and it all might lead to the end of existence itself. Now, I may or may not have seen the Twilight movies, but what I learned from watching the Twilight movies is that vampires, or even half vampires, should never, ever trust werewolves. I also learned that vampires sparkle, but that's not really important here. But I guess it's safe to say that Blade, he's not a twihard, because he ends up trusting the wrong guy, i.e. werewolf, and after a clever series of twists, we find out that Blade has been duped, and instead of saving the world, he has doomed it completely. And it's one of those things, I didn't expect this to have as clever a twist as it ends up having. It actually has a really clever way of setting things up in this first issue, where I thought we were just going to get, hey, slice and dice, let's fight some vampires. There really is some cool twists that end up turning the stuff on its ear a bit. And by the end of the issue, Blade is beat up, tortured, and damned to a terrible death. And you know what? Pretty damn awesome. It's also refreshing at a time when most writers go the basic bitch route and have their heroes win the day, the hour, the minute, and even the second. And I know that Blade is a different kind of hero, but by the end of the issue, Bryan Hill shows how damn cool Blade is. And really, that goes a long way for me. There is no soapboxing here. There is no inserting. It is just an issue that shows you how cool Blade is and sets up a pretty intriguing, mysterious type story that I want to see keep going. Now, with that, I usually try not to pull out the Reviewer 101 book of cliches, but hey, I can't wait until next issue. And I think you get it by now. I really like this first issue. Bryan Hill's script and Elena Casagrande's art work so well together to give the readers a very good, dark, cinematic issue that I am recommending to just about everyone. Now, the list of Marvel books that I'm enjoying right now is very, very small. But after reading Blade number one, that list just got a bit bigger. And bam, that should be on the trade. Somebody get Marvel on the phone and tell them to put that on the trade. And with all that, I am going to give this a 9 out of 10 and would love to hear what everybody thought of Blade number one in the comments below. And make sure to be kind to one another, because big change starts with a little kindness. Boom, I did it again. Now I get a pat on the back and a Nobel Peace Prize. I am on a roll here. Somebody tell my wife I'm not that simple, too. Seriously, she's always dissing me completely. But with all that, let me know what you thought. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.